if you're ready, I'm just going to take a short minute to thank everybody for attending. Today's webinar on port efficiencies is a good example of how the Association of Pacific Ports is ensuring that even if we can't meet in person, we continue to provide opportunities for the port community to learn about new trends and technologies. If you're not a member of the APP yet, I invite you to learn more through our website at pacificports.org. And just one quick housekeeping thing, if the question and answer function doesn't work, feel free to use the chat section. We were playing around with it. We're not sure if it's our side or if it's just not working. And I'd like to now introduce Doug Hayes, Executive Director for the Port of Columbia County in Oregon. Doug has been the Executive Director at the Port of Columbia County since 2017, following his retirement from the United States Army. In a career that spanned over 20 years, he has led deployments around the world and at home. Notable achievements include leading economic development efforts in Kosovo, addressing sensitive environmental and archaeological concerns on the James River in Virginia, and bringing opposing tribal troops together to participate in elections in Anbar Province, Iraq. Doug, I gotta say, I was really impressed with that. He's dedicated,
make me feel old.
Dedicated to diversity, Hayes has commanded the first Army unit, he did command the first Army unit to integrate and promote women into combat roles. Lieutenant Colonel Hayes received numerous commendations, awards, and medals for his service, including 2 Bronze Stars. And Doug, I'll let you take this away. And all the rest of us are going to mute while all the presenters will mute until they're ready to speak.
Okay, well, thank you, Jan. I appreciate it. And it's really nice to see everyone. I know this has been a very challenging year, to say the least. I don't think a year ago any of us would even imagine this current environment that we're in. And I know it's difficult for most and certainly challenging for all. But I'm glad that we're doing this, because I think it's important that we continue to maintain these relationships, that we still understand some of the opportunities out there, the technologies out there, systems that are out there that will help us all continue to grow. Because I'm convinced this will end. This will come to an end at some point. And I think the more that we stay on top of it, stay on top of the game, the less difficulty we'll have as this ends and we're playing catch up, right? So I really wanted to thank the presenters. Jay, thank you. Jay, Director for Government Solutions over at Yardi. I appreciate you joining us, along with Chris and Rory. Chris is the Chief Innovations Officer from PortLink, and Rory, Global Sales for Maritime at Midstream. Thank you all for joining us. So we're going to start with Jay. Jay will give his rundown, and then we'll open for questions. And then we'll move to Chris, and then we'll finish it up with Rory. Thank you again for joining us today, and I'm really looking forward to this. So with that being said, Jay.
Thank you, Doug. I am going to attempt to share. Can everybody see my screen? It should be a blue screen. It says increasing port management. Yep. How's the size?
Looks good.
Good. Yeah, good. I think I figured it out. All right. Thank you for having me today, everybody. I appreciate it. It's great to be here. Good afternoon to you folks on the West Coast, and good evening to you folks on the East Coast. I'm going to concentrate my presentation this afternoon on efficiencies through technology, because that's what we do at Yardi. We're a technology company. We make real estate software for private sector and public sector business, and ports certainly fall into our public sector business. So wanted to start with this quote. It's certainly true that we're all trying to increase efficiencies, particularly with the challenges that 2020 has thrown at us across all industries, but certainly in the port industry. Any efficient operation can be made more efficient by applying technology in the proper way. Throwing technology at a problem is not the answer, but if you're already working toward efficiencies, technology is a great way to enhance those efficiencies. I want to talk a little bit about the challenges that are facing the industry, sort of what's causing those challenges, and then what we can do to sort of remedy those challenges through technology. First slide's kind of strange, seemingly. It is a slide of our Yardi offices around the world. Is this a shameless plug? Kinda. But it also is significant because I want to talk a little bit about one of the main contributing factors that's challenging ports today. Yardi was not always a global company. Like most companies, we started out small. Our founder and president, Anat Yardi, is from California, Santa Barbara specifically, and that's where the company began. And as you can see from this map, we now have offices all around the world. The world is a much smaller place than it used to be, and that's due largely to globalization. Very simply, globalization is taking what was once local or national, more isolated, if you will, and making it part of a global network. There are a number of different ways to do that. And there's just a handful of them here on this slide. Improved transport, and that is just very simply making global travel easier. For example, there's been a rapid growth in air travel over the years, and that enables people and goods to move around the planet with greater ease. Containerization is probably a term that most of you are familiar with. Back in the 70s, there was a rapid adoption of the steel transport container. That greatly reduced the costs of intermodal transport, and it made trade cheaper and more efficient. Of course, containers have gotten larger and larger and increased the capacity for shipping, but also created challenges within ports. There's been a great proliferation of multinational companies that have global presence around the world over a variety of different economies. And of course, that requires goods to be moved from place to place, either because they need them for supply or for commerce. They want to sell them. The growth of global trading blocks have reduced national barriers as well. The European Union, NAFTA, those kinds of organizations are sort of breaking down and making that kind of trade easier, as is the reduction in tariff barriers. So it's become a much smaller world. And because of that, there's a lot more demand to have goods shipped from place to place. The mobility of capital, global markets, increased mobility in labor. People are willing to move now more for jobs than they ever were before. And so that that allows for remote work. All of these things impact shipping. Specifically, so let's look at these 7 challenges that are facing ports. And I have talked to many of you who manage ports over the years, and we've talked about these specific things. Community opposition to aesthetics. Most communities don't want an ugly crane in their city or their county. Now, you can argue that that's short-sighted because that port is also providing a lot of revenue and feeding directly the local economy, but you're still going to have people complain that they don't want a port that's not aesthetically pleasing in their community. Fees, port fees, all kinds of fees, wharfage fees, tariffs have become increasingly complicated. The time intervals that fees are billed have become increasingly more complicated. We have daily fees, hourly fees, monthly fees. Some of the fees are on leases, some are not, some are ad hoc. Very difficult to track all of those different fees, and you need an automated way to do that. The dates with which things are due, the dates with which things are past due. Real estate has become an increasingly large challenge for ports. Lots of extra land around a port, lots of pressure to do something with that land. It's kind of sitting idle. It might be an environmental issue. The EPA might be after you to do something with industrial land or former industrial land that needs to be cleaned up. And so ports have been very creative and used a lot of imagination to transform that land into something that actually makes them money. They're developing on it. They're turning it into green space. All these kinds of things require management. larger ships and cargo with less budget and less employees. You're doing more at the port. There's a lot more activity. You're having larger ships come in with larger containers, and you're having to do more with less. And then, of course, doing all of those things with great accuracy, and in the world we live in today, tremendous amounts of security in terms of data being shipped back and forth across the internet, in terms of actual physical things being shipped around on ships. And of course, everybody's favorite, COVID-19. So COVID-19 gets its own slide, because that's what we're all talking about right now, right? And it really has hit an industry like the port industry pretty hard. 2019 was not a banner year for shipping. So 2020 rolls around, everybody's hoping things get better, and boom, COVID-19 hits. Of course, that has affected heavily our trade with China. There have been a slump in demand from goods from China to the United States, primarily. The ban on cruise traffic has impacted a number of ports where cruise ships are a big part of their economy. Of course, people are traveling less, and so the demand for oil and exports has been reduced tremendously. The shipping industry, like I said, was already experiencing a downturn in 2019, so 2020 hasn't helped. So what can we do about all of this? Well, we can certainly reduce the carbon footprint and make the port prettier. That should quell the complaints of the people in the community that don't want the port there because it's not contributing aesthetically to the community. You can do that through developing real estate. You can do that through reducing carbon emissions. You can do that through creating land that's not soaked with petroleum and that's actually creating nice green space. You can look for technological solutions, automated solutions that can help you to calculate your fees and your bills, as well as your key dates and any other pieces of information you want to track electronically. You can look for a solution like Yardi that provides real-time management of real estate across your entire portfolio or whatever you want to track within the port. And then automated port activities will allow you to do more with less. You can actually do, if you're using web-based software to manage your port operations, in the age of COVID-19, you can have people work from home and do that because it's a web-based application. So all of these things are great ways and automated ways to help you overcome the challenges that are facing ports today. Talking a little bit more about that, the things that are, I think, most important in finding a solution to help with all these sorts of things is you want to try to find a single solution if you can. If you can't do that, you want to try to find solutions that integrate together well. You don't want to Frankenstein cobbling systems together that don't talk to each other. You don't want to have multiple points of entry where you're entering the same information in several different applications. That doesn't increase efficiency. That's just throwing technology at a solution and not making things better, which is not, I don't think, what you want to do. And so real-time tracking, making things less labor intensive, getting a handle on those port fees, and then the real estate management system are all very, very important. All of that can be done with software. There are a number of very good softwares out there that can manage your leases, property management, any facilities management, work order, break fix stuff, inventory, asset control, tariff management. These would be your port fees and tariffs. And then any kind of budgeting or forecasting you need to do in the port. Yardi, of course, does all of those things, which is why I'm talking about it. A couple of kudos from a couple of our clients, and I picked a couple that are interesting to me. Port of San Antonio has been a client of ours for quite some time. The Port of San Antonio is very interesting because it used to be Kelly Air Force Base, and when the Air Force Base was closed, it really hit the city and county in San Antonio hard. That was a blow to the economy, and it was a blow to the morale of the people that live there. And the Port of San Antonio took that land and turned it into a a technological center. Their first client was Boeing, which is not a bad place to start, but they really took land that wasn't doing anything and turned it into a thriving, contributing part of the community. Another client we have is the state of Hawaii. We actually have the Department of Land and Natural Resources. Part of that is the Department of Boating and Ocean Recreation. And they are actually more of a recreational port, sort of a harbor management system where they have wait lists for people to get boat slips. They have boat registrations, those kinds of things. So it's more recreational, although they do have some commercial traffic as well. And so they use our software to manage that recreational boating element rather than cargo shipping, which is something I think we don't often or always think of when we think of ports. So I wanted to bring them up as well. That's all I had. Can't cram a whole lot into 15 minutes, and I'm right at 15 minutes, which is better than I could have ever hoped for. Thank you very much for having me today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Jay. Actually, I'm going to take the first question here to get us started. Has Yardi made any enhancements to your software, which will help with port management?
We have actually. So Yardi is primarily a real estate software, and we do that for a variety of different industries. We do residential property management, commercial property management, senior student housing, all kinds of different things. And the port space is one that we've been doing, like I said, for about a decade now. We are in the process right now of creating a calculator to calculate port fees and tariffs. We're working with Port of Tacoma, and we're working with a couple of our other partners. Port of Redwood City is going to be instrumental in developing that, and we hope to use that to make it easier to manage those very, very complicated fees. The other thing that we've done is we've added a harbor management system to handle permitting for, as I said, for registrations for vessels, as well as a robust wait listing system that helps with folks that are waiting for docks or port space.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? From Rory, I don't know if you saw that. Came from Rory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I see that. Yes. So Yardi has an integrated facilities management system. It's called Facility Manager, and it will handle all of, like as I said earlier, the work order, break fix stuff. We have a vendor management system, so if vendors want to get on and pick up work orders, they can. All of it runs through a tenant portal where tenants, customers, other associations of the port can get in and put in their own work orders. And then there's also an asset management system where you can do depreciation on assets. You can do inventory control along with barcode scanning to scan the items in your warehouse and assist with ordering. And then everything also works off of mobile apps. So you can actually run all of that from your phone.
Jay, I have a question as well. Do you need a special platform to run this on, or is it all Windows based, or is it proprietary? How does that work?
It's not actually. We are browser agnostic. Everything runs on the internet, and it'll run on Chrome, Safari, Microsoft products, anything that's all of the major browsers are we can use.
I have another question. I don't know if you could hear me or not.
Yeah, I can hear you.
The question, does the tool get so specialized that like you can, track very specific costs, like how much fuel do your reach stackers consume each year? How much money, like you obviously put your purchase orders for fuel each year, and then you want to say, well, how much money am I actually spending? Can I like click a tab or something and say eliminate all the other facility costs? I just want to see what am I spending on fuel each year.
Yeah, it's a product that's sort of in in process right now, and what we're trying to do as we develop it is to find as much commonality as we can, because we want it to be a tool that everybody can use to a certain degree. And if we make it too specific, then it doesn't work for a wide variety of clients. So that's the challenge, right? And that's always a challenge when you're building software, is you want to meet everybody's needs, but you also want to create a platform that works for everybody across the board. And so we have to try to find middle ground there. So most of the innovation that we do at Yardi comes from our clients. And so, and we take those enhancement requests, and they usually go before committees, and we look at them and decide, is this something that a large enough group of our clients will use to make it worth developing?
So theoretically, if there was a specific type of cost that, say, would be like universal or quasi-universal, this could theoretically be created and then implemented into the system?
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's not something that we could do universally, we do also consider custom requests for clients.
Okay.
We don't love to do custom work, only because then there's a custom thing in your system you have to maintain forever, right? So we would rather have everything be out of the box, but we do custom work and one-off things for clients all the time.
Very interesting. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, you bet.
All right. Any other questions for Jay? Okay.